I will say continue.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Brave and Faithful podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Radian Dionisio. Today, I have an Army veteran. He's also the founder and CEO of Authentically American. Where is yours made? I have none other than Dean Wegner. What's going on, Dean?
Well, Red and I am honored to be a guest and love how you're starting it out with a great question. Our favorite tagline.
Yeah, before we get started on the apparel brand and all that, can you talk to our audience a little bit about your service? When did you serve? I mentioned you're an Army veteran. What was your job? What that all entailed?
Absolutely. So my undergrad, Redden, was at West Point. So I graduated in 93 and I chose aviation. So I went to flight school at Fort Rucker, Alabama, learned how to fly helicopters, then had a very unique opportunity to attend the Army Special Forces Ranger School. So that was so awful, so bad, so miserable that it was just an incredible experience, Redden. So I often highlight that when we talk about entering the entrepreneurial startup world. And then I served 7 years active duty from 93 to 2000. And a big part of who I am and my upbringing, my values, leadership, everything I attribute to that time at West Point and those 7 years active duty.
So you mentioned you went to Ranger School. How did that? Well, first off, Did you plan on just enlisting for one term and leaving the military, or did you plan on making a career? How did that decision come about?
When I graduated in 93, I wasn't really sure, Red. Anything I do, I give it my all, I pour all in. And I wasn't sure if it was going to be a 20-year or more career, or if I was going to do my minimum 7 years for 5 for West Point and 2 for flight school. And what really cemented it for me, I had an opportunity to go to school at night and get my MBA.
Mhm.
I went to Cal State, and schooling was good at West Point, but I had an engineering degree and really didn't enjoy the engineering classes. But when I was getting my MBA, I found out that I really enjoyed it and had an aptitude, and it just made me determine that there's going to be other professional interests out there. And the other piece is my wife and I, my wife Kelly, we've been married 27 years
Wow,
and we have four
congrats.
amazing kids. We've got two daughters, Red and 23 and 20. We've got a 17-year-old son, and we also have an 11-year-old son we adopted from Ethiopia. And I just saw too much time away from the family. And to me, it's all about God, family, and country. And it was just something that made the choice that after 7 years, I fulfilled my obligation, loved serving my country, but it was time to make the transition.
And and how was that transition from you? Because we hear a lot of veterans. Sometimes it's difficult to make that transition. But you've had your degrees, you've had success. Uh, how would you describe your transition out of the army?
Well, Ren, first of all, to your point, it is not easy. And I think probably what helped make it easier for me, and I'd make two recommendations. One is start early.
Mm,
Don't wait till the last month. Don't wait for the last 3 months, because to really be prepared to make the transition, I mean, there's a lot of effort in putting together a resume. There's a lot of due diligence and exploring what you want to do, because the Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, any service is going to prepare you very well for that transition, but you need to invest that time to get ready. So I would say at least a year out, start planning, start getting ready. And the other recommendation, and arguably even more important, is reach out to your network, reach out to family, reach out to friends, and start to understand what other people are doing. Because when you hear stories and understand what other people are doing, then you can start to get a better idea what you want to do. And it's so valuable to have that network, because when you have that network, oftentimes some of the best jobs aren't even listed. You will never
mm.
see them available. And if somebody knows that you're looking for a job, they know who you are, your background and experience, what you're bringing, that will open up a lot of doors.
So do you feel the relationships that you built even before leaving the army, has brought you or has put you in the position where you're at today?
There is no doubt about it, Redden. One of my favorite mantras, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
And that has really been a mantra of mine. And there are friends and classmates and relationships I have from high school and from West Point that have continued today. And I always make sure when I talk about that mantra of it's not what you know, it's who you know, I really reinforce that that investment and that relationship starts with me. I always make sure that if you and I meet for the first time, that I always inquisitive and make sure I want to get to know you and understand you. And then I always ask the question, well, Redden, what can I do for you? How can I help you? And when you go out of your way and are intentional about helping others, it's amazing how that comes back to you.
Yeah, I guess that was going to be my follow-up question is like, and you've basically answered it is, like, what's your advice on building that relationship, building that network, right? And you mentioned it, right? Just asking the question of not, what you can get from them is what you can do for others. And you brought up that great point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't reinforce that enough. But the other one is a lot of people will go to a conference,
Mm,
will go to a networking event, and it's great because you'll meet a lot of people. You may exchange a lot of business cards, meet a lot of people, but all that really does there, Redden, is open the door. And if you meet somebody where that relationship really starts, is that follow up after. So if you meet somebody and say, you know what, that's somebody that I really respect and admire and would love to meet them, don't be shy. Reach out, send them a text, send them an email and ask, can we get together for coffee? Can we get together for lunch? Whatever the request may be, but don't be shy about reaching out because that when it's one-on-one after, that's where you can really start to build that relationship.
yeah, that's a great point, Dean. Let's go back to your transition out of the army. So you left the army, you said in 2000. Obviously you've had some work experience before Authentically American. How how did this brand all come about?
It has been an incredible journey. And what I like to say, Redden, is each and every step along the way in my professional journey has prepared me for where we're at right now. So the entire ethos and essence and DNA of Authentically American, is attributed to each and every step of my career journey. So to give all of the listeners just a quick overview. So Authentically American, we are a veteran owned, American made premium apparel brand. And our vision is to build this iconic American brand that's truly American made. And the American made is important because we are incredibly passionate about job creation. And Redden, you can think of all kinds of iconic apparel brands out there, whether it's Nike or Polo or Under Armour. There's a long, long list of them, but not a single one of them is American made. And to give everyone a little bit of a historical context, so when I graduated from West Point in '93, over 50% of the apparel in the US was made in the US. And today it's less than 3. I mean, that is all that's made here. And you had fun in the opening introduction, Redden, when you said, hey, where's yours made?
Yeah.
And that stat around 3% gave birth to that tagline. And I always like to ask, Redden, great looking shirt, where's yours made? And you're laughing. Either it's the answer that I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
like,
yeah.
or most people, Redden, say, well, Dean, I have no idea. And they will oftentimes even look, even if they've got to pull the shirt off their back and be like, well, made in China. I mean, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. And that is the silver lining for us because 2020 was incredibly challenging. But, as challenging as it was, there is even more momentum because now, people used to not be aware of the choice they were making on that country of origin, what their tag would say. But now more and more people love the fact that we're American made and are actively seeking tags that say made in USA.
So Dean, let me ask you this. Why, there's obviously there's tons and hundreds of brands out there, right? How do you know what's authentically American, what's made in America, and what differentiates uh, those brands or those apparels that are made in the USA?
Well, that authentic is an important word because a lot of people read and will play games.
Hmm.
If you start to look at tags, it may say designed in the US. It may say assembled in the US, but there is a legal requirement for you to be able to have that made in USA tag. So, I've got one of our shirts here. It's easier than me than pulling this off, but ours and every single thing from Authentically American says made in USA. Whether it is a shirt or a button down like I'm wearing, or these socks, everything says made in USA. And that is important. But I always like to highlight, Redden, that it is almost a secondary benefit that we are American made, because first and foremost, we are a consumer brand. And if you buy from us for the first time and you have a terrible experience, it's not a comfortable shirt, you don't like the socks, whatever item you buy from us and you have a terrible experience, you're not buying from us again. And that's why I say, first and foremost, what we're all about is delivering an amazing product experience.
No, like I said, I mentioned there's hundreds of apparel brands, and maybe some of our listeners are starting, think about creating their own brand. What is your advice on for those people that want to create such an iconic brand such as Authentically American?
Well, I will tell you this, the number one piece of advice, Red, and I give, if you have that entrepreneurial spirit, you feel like you want to start your own business, find something you love.
Hmm.
Find something you're passionate about, because then when you truly believe in what you do, that passion is going to sell itself. And we've been the incredible benefactors of a brand, of being on national TV. It's up to 12 times now, and I'm going to be back on national TV tomorrow. And the most common feedback I hear from people, the hosts that interview me, is like, Dean, you really believe this? I mean, you are incredibly passionate about what you're doing. And that's why it hasn't been one or two times. That's why it's been 12 times, because we have this feel good American story. We're a brand that celebrates patriotism. We're a brand that believes in the American worker. And we're also a brand, Redden, that honors our American heroes very intentionally. We donate 10% of our profits to veteran and first responder charities, and that's a way for us to honor our American heroes. So that is the number one piece of advice, whether you are going down the apparel path, whatever that business you want to pursue, find something you love, find something you're passionate about, because then it doesn't feel like work.
So you mentioned, portions of the sale. You said about 10% of the sale goes to nonprofits. Um, I just want to go back into the networking and building relationships, right? How have you been able to connect with you know these organizations, and in creating this teamwork, and where you obviously donate a portion of your profits to their organization?
So I guess one other piece of advice for networking, it makes it so easy now. I remember the days when you used to have a address book, and you'd have to handwrite you know name and phone number. But now it is so easy with phones. So this has been an intentional habit I've built. So the very first time you and I were introduced, you know, you and all of your contact information went to my phone. And not only your contact information, but I made a note that referenced how we met and a little bit of background. And it's important, because when you meet a lot of people, you need to have some sort of reference. And it's amazing when you start making those notes, how much easier it is to go ahead and have those, you know, memory devices tied to it. But to your question about our donation, so it is 10% of our profits that we donate to veteran and first responder charities. So there's two of them specifically. So one of them is the Folded Flag Foundation. It is
Okay.
just an amazing organization that provides education to Gold Star families, and they are a national charity, a national nonprofit. The other one is Reboot Recovery. They have a faith-based PTSD program, not only for veterans, but first responders as well. And they are local here, just outside of Nashville, near Fort Campbell. And they just do an incredible job taking care of our American heroes who are truly struggling with PTSD.
That's awesome, Dean, and I appreciate you for appreciate you and your brand for
Mhm.
doing what you guys are doing for our community. So for those of you guys just listening in, again, talking to Dean Wegner of Authentically American. Uh, we talked about your motto, right? the saying, "Where is yours made?" Um,
Mhm.
how did I maybe we talked about it before, but how did you come up with that motto?
That is one. There were probably a lot of sleepless nights and just rolling over in bed and saying, okay, Nike has just do it.
Right.
There's a lot of different mottos out there. And back to, creating American jobs, that being at the heart of our mission. I think another one that is out there, and I'm drawing a blank on the bank, but what's in your wallet?
Mm. Yeah.
And just having all these thoughts and just brainstorming time together, I'm like, okay, we want to raise awareness, we want to help create American jobs, so let's have it as a question. And it just led to asking around, and all of a sudden the light bulb went off, and like, where's yours made? It's provocative.
Right.
It causes people to stop and think. And what's funny, Redden, I've had people say to me, darn it, Dean, every time I go to the store now, I've got to look at the tag. And I can't find much American made, to your point, around 3%. But every time I feel guilty when I don't buy something that is American made. And that is now serving its purpose, because we want to build that awareness. And when only 3% is American made, it's going to be very challenging for everything you purchase. But now people are conscious, and now people are starting to make that purchase in American made.
So I guess that leads me to my next question, Dean. Like you mentioned challenges. What are some of your challenges right now with, with apparel? Trying to get more and more apparel made in the USA. What are some of the challenges that you guys are facing right now?
I will tell you, Redden, our biggest challenge last year that all of us endured in some form or fashion was a global pandemic. And to give some background, our manufacturing is contract manufacturing across 12 US states. So this t-shirt that I held up earlier, we make amazing t-shirts in Texas. We have incredible socks. So here's, our own patriotic design socks. These are Carolina cotton, knit in Carolina. So our contract manufacturing networks is across 12 US states. And last year when COVID hit and there was talk of completely shutting down, I mean, I was like, what in the world?
Hmm.
I mean, what are we going to do? If we don't have product, we don't have a brand, we don't have a company, and we're a bootstrap startup. We do have some investment, but we don't have enough cash to go ahead and weather a long storm. And I thought, are we even going to survive? And I will tell you, Redden, last year absolutely reinforced my belief in the American worker, because all of our factories were impacted. They were operating from 25 to 40 to 50%. But it is amazing how they stood up. They found a way to make it happen. And last year we didn't grow nearly as fast as we wanted, but we survived, number one, and we grew nearly 50% last year.
Oh,
And that is
congrats.
all attributed to the American worker. And in the middle of a global pandemic and under severe restrictions, being able to continue to produce amazing American made product.
And I think it also goes back to your point, again, just going back into relationship building, right? And networking and having those people
Mhm.
behind you, and supporting you all the way, even though obviously with the global pandemic that went on last year.
Red, and I should highlight one other pivot that we made, because we had talked about giving back and how we intentionally donate 10% of our profits to veteran and first responder charities. But another way that we manifest that giving back core value is when we partner with a charity or nonprofit. We provide our goods and services at cost. And if you are a charity, you are already buying t-shirts with your charity logo. You're buying polos, hats, you're buying all kinds of things with your logo. But what we do is when we partner with a charity or nonprofit, we provide our goods and services at cost.
Mm.
And that's a way for you as a charity to build your brand and to raise some funds in the process. So we had always had that principle in place, but we had never really promoted it. We had never actively pursued it. But as we were talking last year as a team, how are we going to survive? We were really hitting with a dose of reality. And we thought, well, what if we're a charity and we're relying on donations, and it's the highest unemployment rate since the Great Depression? People aren't writing donation checks. So we actively sought out veteran charities And since we not only have amazing American made product, we have full end-to-end service where we've got graphic design and we build online stores, we do fulfillment, we collect payment, all of that. We saw that as a primary opportunity for us to step up and make a difference and serve a lot of veteran charities out there specifically that were hurting and really needed some help. So that was one of the pivots we made and really felt fantastic about that move that we did last year. And as a side benefit, I mean, there were now thousands and thousands of new people that were now aware of Authentically American.
So you mentioned for any nonprofit, they can partner with you
Yes.
at no
Yeah.
cost with the
Yeah.
design, fulfillment, and things like that.
You know, we provide that all at cost. So we need to cover our costs. We can't give away everything, but we provide it at cost. So for example, this shirt here, and if we've got time, I'll do a quick show and tell demo, but
Oh, yep.
you know, this is
Right.
our sweat activated print innovation. So this is a shirt that we sell for $32 every day, and we sell thousands of them. And when we partner with a charity, we often recommend that they sell it for 25 and then their net cost ends up being around 15. So they make $10 for every shirt that they sell.
Hmm.
And I like to highlight this, Redden, because this is an amazing shirt. And for those who are only listening and can't see it, I'm holding up one that's a personal favorite of mine. It's a gray Go Army, t-shirt for my alma mater of West Point. And Ren, I love that we can see each other, but if you were here in person and if you could feel this shirt, you'd be like, Dean, that is incredibly soft. And that is by design. We want our shirts to be incredibly soft. And the print on the front is Go Army. And if you tried to feel it, you can't even feel it because we only use a very soft hand water-based ink because think of a lot of the t-shirts you have in your closet, Red, that have a big logo. It's that heavy plastisol ink that on a hot summer's day, it will stick to your chest. You wash it a few times, it will crack. And ours are designed to be incredibly soft across the board. And Redden, this is our new sweat activated print innovation. And here's what happens because at West Point, the mantra is all about go Army, beat Navy. And here's what happens with your sweat. So I'm going to spray it with a bottle.
Yeah.
You see what appears there, Redden?
Yeah, there you go. Beat Navy.
Beat Navy. So it's in print on front and on back. There's our vintage US flag. And, I'm spraying again, but there in even bigger print is Beat Navy. And Redden, I love to highlight this because people say, Dean, I don't care where it's made. It is just an incredible shirt. First, it's incredibly soft. I can't even feel the print. And then, wow, that technology, I've never seen anything like that. That is so cool. But then, Redden, here's what happens. They look at the tag and like, American made. I mean, there's nothing in my closet that's American made.
Hmm.
And then they're curious, they want to learn more. So they go to our website, learn about the story behind our brand, learn our ethos and what we're all about. And that's when we have an opportunity to be one of their favorite brands. But it very intentionally starts with product.
So thank you for that demonstration, Dean. And for those of you guys just listening, make sure you guys check out the episode when it comes out on our YouTube channel for that demonstration. Uh, so Dean, we talked about some of the nonprofits that you're helping out, with the brand and giving a portion of your profits to those nonprofits. What would you say has been the most rewarding moment or experience you've had since you started Authentically American?
It would be hard, Ren, for me to just pick one. But I would say, in general, what I have really enjoyed most is what we talked about is the opportunity to go ahead and partner with some incredible, amazing veteran-focused charities and to get unsolicited notes from people saying, Dean, I just love your product. I want to wear it every single day. Dean, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your team stepping up. They made me feel like I was the one and only customer they were dealing with. And it is comments like that about our product. It's comments like that about our service or, our values, what we stand for, that makes it all worthwhile because 4 years ago, Red and Authentically American, we were a blank sheet of paper.
Hmm.
And in one respect, after 4 years, I mean, I'm incredibly exhausted because it has literally been brick by brick, just building the foundation for our business, the systems, the process, the manufacturing network, our branding, marketing, everything has been just exhausting to build it all together. But I will tell you, I'm even more energized because Red, when you start with a blank sheet of paper, you can be so intentional about who you are and what you stand for and your values and your vision and mission. And that's to me why I'm even more energized.
Dean, what's one actionable step that you can give our audience right now who who are in that same journey as you were, maybe 3 4 years ago? What's one actionable step that you can give them right now in pursuit of that second service that they're pursuing?
So you're talking about if they're going to make the transition after the military?
Just building your own brand, whether that be apparel or whatnot.
Yeah. We had talked about one, and that is, pursuing your passion. But who would have thought 5 years ago, Ren, that you and I would be talking virtually like this and you'd have a podcast?
Yeah.
I mean, that
Yeah.
is what's so powerful. When you are pursuing something that's passionate, there's likely a story behind what you're doing. So I think that's the other, piece of advice is when you have that passion, when you have that story behind what you're doing, be intentional about coming up with a plan on how you're going to share it. And you've put together a podcast, the Brave and Faithful, and have an amazing story on why you're doing that. I mean, there's going to be something about your brand story, about your business that you're going to want to share. Find a fun, creative, innovative way, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's your own podcast, whether it's on Facebook, or it's a combination of all of them. Get the story out because with social media so prevalent, yeah, people absolutely want amazing product, but that's almost the price of entry. Once you have demonstrated that you have amazing product, the reason they're going to keep coming back is that tie behind your story.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you. Is the most important thing is the story behind the brand or business, whatever you're trying to build, right? And that's what gravitates people towards to your passion and to what you're doing. Um, so, Dean, one last question before we go to our second segment of the podcast. What's one thing you want our listeners to take away from this episode?
It is if you are considering pursuing the entrepreneurial dream and starting your own business, it is absolutely possible. I will tell you, 10 years ago, I never would have thought this was possible, even 5 years.
Hmm.
I didn't think I had it in me. But I will tell you, with the right planning, with the right preparation, with bringing the right people beside you, it is absolutely possible. And I'm sure you'll have show notes, Redden, and you have my, email, you have my phone number. You are welcome to include it in there. So many people have invested in me over my career, helped make a difference and enable me to be here. I always very actively share that because if somebody, one of your listeners, has a question, if there's something that I can help out with, please don't hesitate to reach out.
We'll do, and we'll make sure we include your information on the show notes for our audience to reach out for those interested. So Dean, going into our second segment here, this is what I call the fast five. So it's the same five
Uh-oh.
questions,
Mhm.
the same five questions I ask all my guests. Dean, are you ready?
Ready as I'm ever going to be. So now I'm a little nervous.
All right. So first question, just to get to know Dean a little more, what's one hobby you enjoy?
So other than spending time with my family, one of the things I love doing is I'm a hockey player. So I was born upstate New York near the Canadian border, played hockey all the way through growing up, played Division I hockey at West Point, and Red still playing a men's beer league now every Sunday night.
Ice hockey. All right. Um, Next question. If you had to choose one person to hang out with for one day, who would it be and why?
That is an easy one. I talked about my priorities in life aligning to God, family and country, and my Savior is Jesus Christ. So if I could break bread, sit down with Jesus, the Savior himself, I mean, that would absolutely be the number one choice.
That's been a lot of people's choice on the podcast here.
That's
So,
great to hear.
next question, Dean. Recommend a book for our audience to read.
So, Go Giver is one of the most recent ones I've read, and it's also one of the most impactful because back to that mantra of it's not what you know, who you know. And I talked about investing in those relationships. So somebody gave me that book and said, Dean, you're a go giver.
Mm.
And I said, Red, well, what are you talking about? And they said, Dean, read this book. And that really crystallized for me, the importance and value. And it's almost a strategy in of itself. And it has to be genuine, it has to be authentic, but it really reinforced how valuable it is to really go out of your way to help others. And again, that's why I very intentionally always offer up myself if somebody needs help, if somebody needs support, to offer up my contact information so they can reach out in a private manner and see if I can help.
Yeah, I love that book. I got that book as a gift as well. One of my all-time favorite books, The Go Giver. And it's a
It's
quick
phenomenal.
read. Yeah, I love it.
Mhm.
Next question, Dean. What's your favorite quote and why?
My favorite quote, you let it off, and it is our tagline, where is yours made?
There you go. Uh, last question, Dean. Where do you see yourself in a year, 5 years, or even 10 years from now?
So the number one word that ties to 1, 5, 10 years from now, it's all about growth. And our vision, Redden, is to build this iconic American brand that's truly American made. And I spent time at Procter and Gamble working on brands like Crest and Tide. I spent time at Mars working on brands like M&M's. And all those brands are different and iconic in their own right. And one thing that they have in common, they're all north of $1 billion. And
Wow.
that's that go big or go home goal. We want to be an iconic $1 billion brand. And we've got a long way to go and we've got a lot of work ahead of us. But I'm thankful, Redden, for the opportunity because now there's a long new list of people, thanks to you, that are going to know more about Authentically American. And that's what it's all about for us. It's growth and having people have an opportunity like the sweat activated t-shirt, Go Army, Beat Navy. Or we've got 14 other colleges that have an opportunity to go out and try our product, fall in love with it, spread the word, and then that will enable us to grow, create more jobs, and continue to make a difference.
Awesome, Dean. Dean, again, thank you for your time. I appreciate you for sharing a little bit about your service, your story, and obviously with your brand, Authentically American. And for those of you guys interested in partnering up with Dean, especially the nonprofits, make sure you guys reach out. Again, the show notes will include his information. Uh, Dean, any final messages? Anything you want to, we got the 4th of July weekend coming up. Anything that you want to, bring attention to our audience with your brand?
Absolutely, Redden. And one, if you want to find out more about us, go to our website, authenticallyamerican.us. And .us was an intentional choice given the equity of our brand. And then you can go to our Facebook page or Instagram or LinkedIn and find out more about us. But we have an amazing 4th of July collection. And Redden, you can also include this in the show notes. So if they go to make a purchase and enter founder, FOUNDER, founder at checkout, that will be good for a 25% discount. And there is an amazing 4th of July collection we have that has a 50 states t-shirt. It has a polo, it has a jacket, socks. It's got an amazing array of options that is very patriotic, ties to the 4th of July, but is also American made.
So once again, that's founder, all caps or small
It
caps?
doesn't matter. Just put in founder at checkout and that'll take 25% off checkout. So it's another way we can have that go giver mindset and help people out.
Awesome, Dean. Again, if let's make sure you guys go check out Authentically American. Go shop for and prepare for the 4th of July this weekend. Use that code founder, get 25% off. Dean, I appreciate you for your time and thank you for sharing your story.
It was an honor to be a guest, Red, and thank you very much.
All right, everyone. Take care.